Okay, thank you all for being here. So having class with a lot of busy work is actually the worst. That's a common theme within teens, is that they often complain a lot and then they get upset when their grade turns out really bad. So this, just on a much bigger scale, is really similar to when it comes time for Americans to exercise their right to vote. Coming from a very passionate family about looking forward to getting a say about what happens in our country is something that I've gone to look forward to. So strong and dedicated time spent researching as to why this voting is such an important right towards Americans. I've developed a very strong stance on the very seriousness of the topic. So the ability to input your opinion on the government issues is a privilege that Americans have fought for many years, and should take a lot of value in. So elections, big or small, federal or state, are events that Americans have often taken for granted. Through casting their vote, you are sure to have a say and also are protecting the overall right to vote. So as a fellow voter, I know that the feeling of contentment is something that I got to look forward to, and knowing that I got to do everything I could to make sure that the future was something that I wanted. So the issue is that not everybody wants this feeling to, not everyone has that sense of wanting to make a difference. Rather, the bigger issue is that they often complain about what is going wrong in our country, but they don't do anything to actively fix it. Sadly, this is many Americans for many different reasons. One of the reasons is because they feel that the process of voting just takes too much time and it's just not as important. So my first demonstration is that this just goes to show that the whole voting process usually doesn't take any more than about 30 minutes. So the majority of it is between 20 and 30. And then the second reason for this is that a lot of Americans don't see the value in their individual vote. Global Citizen stated in 2020 that the reality is that as many as half of eligible voters in the US still don't participate in the election process. And then later it states in 2016 about the 2016 election, is that a different Pew Research Center survey found that half of the participants didn't bother to research the election because they didn't think that their vote impacted the government. These stats just show how individuals don't see the worth in their vote as a whole. These maps break down the 2016 election between Clinton and Trump. So the left, it just kind of shows it's like within the states and how they all voted. And I think that this just gives a good visual about how crucial it is to vote, and how for this election, as an example, was just as close as it was. And so it just shows how crucial it is to make sure that your vote is casted. Overall, this vote, also just in general, this visual just kind of shows that your vote does have a lot of worth, and also just gives the country the best, a fair representation of the people as a whole and what they all wanted. To change this issue is honestly very simple. It's just to go out and vote. The thought that your vote doesn't matter is just very uneducated, because specifically in local elections, they have such few turnouts. And an article from Portland State University found that less than 15% of people vote in these local elections. And then in the National Geographic website, it said that low turnout means that important local issues are determined by a limited group of voters, making a single vote even more statistically meaningful. So even looking towards presidential elections, going back to the 2016 election, Trump was very dependent upon the swing states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. So although Clinton did win the national population vote, he was able to secure the win, and he was able to win because of those swing states. And so that just goes to show the crucial role of each individual vote as a whole. So to actively vote, it's very important to, one, that you need to make sure that you're very educated. So the graph on here, it's kind of confusing, but it's basically just showing that the 63% that are educated in political issues and kind of have a better idea of what's going on, tend to understand more about the weight of their vote and the role that they play for America. So the true act of performing your civic duty really is just a privilege and something that you should not be taking for granted. Ignoring what the vote really does for you or for America and the government, by doing it, it actively keeps the right from being stripped away from you and the rest of American citizens. So some might even say that our rights are on the ballot. By not voting, it kind of shows that you don't care about that right in general and the other freedoms that were given, and that also kind of just follows that you're okay with it being taken away. And if you're okay with it being taken away, then it kind of defeats the purpose of democracy, and it's kind of like no longer upheld. And then it kind of just like the freedoms of America kind of become non-existent. So exercising your right to vote in local elections where everyday life issues are brought into account will keep democracy in America for the better. Greater Rochester Chamber claims that state and local legislators can make direct changes on issues that matter most. So democracy can be upheld and benefit those complaints that people talk about on those issues through voting in elections, big or small, federal or state. This pressing matter has overall just a simple solution, and it rests within the hands of the people. Americans should take value and undertake in the privilege to input opinions and just their overall stance on actions that are performed by the government. And just to conclude overall with the strong opinions that the Americans have and that they vocalize, it's important to remember that our country gives the opportunity to go into action and say what we want to say through voting. So all Americans should long for that chance to exercise that right and vote in presidential elections, local elections, all of them. And overall just help make that impact towards America. Taking a step back though, the freedoms that America has been granted is one that are many that a lot of countries are not as fortunate with, so we just need to take that into account and just remember that the country that we live in should not now nor ever be taken for granted, and that our right to vote should be taking place and we should be using it all the time. So, thank you.